What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Slow Your Roll. We're on an NFL pod today here with Jake and Connor. And ladies and gentlemen, we are officially a week and a half out of the biggest game in all of sports, the Super Bowl. Guys, Niners, Chiefs, what are you guys thinking of this matchup? Like, how are you feeling going into this game?
Personally or game wise?
Personally.
I hate it.
I'm
Uh,
I'm good.
I mean, as a Seahawks fan, I hate the 49ers. They're my least favorite team in all of sports, if I'm being honest with you. I hate them a lot. Um, but as someone who also hates media hype when it comes to like bad fan bases and bad all that, Chiefs fans are terrible. Swifties are awful. This is the worst possible matchup I could have gotten. I don't hate Taylor Swift. I don't hate Travis Kelsey. I hate the fans. It's my number one thing about it. I hate the fan bases. I hate both of them. I'm going for the Chiefs. Um, but me personally, I just hate it. I hate it so much.
Jake, on the other end, what do you have to say about this matchup?
I woke up on Sunday, right, when there were the championship games, and I was thinking, like, it's probably gonna be, Ravens Chiefs or like, Niners Ravens. One team I like is not gonna get in, and then I was like, what if it is Chiefs Niners? And then for the whole rest of the day, the one thing that I and the rest of America did not want to happen right in front of our very eyes because Lamar can't run the football and Dan Campbell is allergic to field goals. And no, people ask who am I rooting for? I'm rooting for an asteroid to hit Las Vegas so that way we don't have to play this damn Super Bowl. We can just go to next year.
Okay, okay. Clearly
my
some passionate feelings there. What do you have to
my
say, Con?
one my one agenda for the Super Bowl that I want, and the reason why I want the Chiefs to win. I love. Okay, I don't love Patrick Mahomes, but I do not like Tom Brady at all. I want Patrick to build up his status a little bit more in a way. I think, well, because Patrick is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen, personally. I mean, the way he throws the ball, the way he runs the ball. It's just, I think personally, him winning another Super Bowl wouldn't be that bad. Um, yes, people are gonna hate it because of the Swifties. People are gonna hate it because of the way that the media will just glorify Taylor for it. But people got to realize, um, it's not just them. It's not just them. I think that um, I also just now thinking about it, a Brock Purdy story would be pretty cool because mystery relevant.
It's
How he
Kurt
came
Warner
back.
esque.
Yeah, Kurt Warner esque in a way. The way he was able to come back from mystery relevant. I always say he was a third round. He was the third quarterback on the roster for like a while. He wasn't really the biggest recruited guy. He's a normal 3-star kid, not really anything too special. Nobody really expected this out of him, especially beating out Trey Lance, who was a top 5 pick. Nobody expected this from Purdy, so I think it'll be pretty cool for him to shut up the haters. But me personally, you will never catch me rooting for the 49ers. A day in my life, you will never catch me rooting for them. So go Chiefs.
Okay, Con's feeling a little Mahomey. So, we've got our opinions out there on the matchup. Could we get some score predictions for this game?
I would throw my usual 24-21 out there because
Okay, okay.
I predicted it for a lot of games, but I think the Chiefs are going to run away with it. I think the 49ers offense, if they just if the Chiefs shut down CMC, it's probably just going to be a runaway if I'm being honest. They're a lot more talented on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Kelsey's been unstoppable in these playoffs. Um, the 49ers, I think Ayuk has looked really good lately. I think Debo Samuel has also been showing up as of late, but he got hurt. So his status is a little bit in the air. But as long as if the 49ers, if CMC has a big game, Niners usually win it. But if the Chiefs D line's been pretty good. Karlaftis, Jones, they've all been really effective so far. They've been able to hold their own. If they keep holding their own and just leaving this offense to do good things on the field, I think they'll be just fine. I think the Chiefs could definitely win this game like 38-24, 38-28, something like that.
Okay, okay. Jake, what are you thinking?
Yeah, It's tough, right? Because the Niners on paper are so good, and the Chiefs on paper are not good at all, and yet here we are. They're both in the Super Bowl. Um, I don't know. I think I'm inclined to say the Chiefs only because at this point, this season has made me a pessimist. Um, but also because the Niners have kind of had a tougher road, and I don't mean that like in the sense of you know injury or harder teams, just injuries specifically, has been tougher for the Niners than the Chiefs.
Okay. As the unofficial champion of the Slow Your Roll playoff bracket challenge, I'm going to just throw my score prediction out there right away. I'm going 34 to 27 49ers in this game. It's going to be close most of the way through. I think the Niners defense ends up getting it done for them, especially if they can establish an early lead. I think that's really important for them. I don't think they can lean on the passing game all game long. I think that's how they lose, and I think that's part of the reason they were losing for quite a bit in the NFC Championship. So I think that 34-27 is just how it winds up with the strength of both teams' offenses and defenses and their play styles. I think that's roughly a score we'll see around, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I didn't really answer the question. My bad. But I'm gonna go. 24-16 with the Chiefs winning. Usually the Super Bowl is a little bit lower scoring than we anticipate. I'm also gonna think that there's gonna be some kind of controversial pro Chiefs call made or lack of calls made against the Chiefs that kind of separate this game. I think a lot of people, will walk away from the Super Bowl pretty dissatisfied if Mahomes wins it, just because people like an underdog story. They don't want to hear about, Mahomes more on ESPN than they already talk about him. But yeah, I think the Niners are more likely to give up a turnover than the Chiefs are to turn the ball over, especially with how tight their defense has actually been playing through the playoffs.
Okay. You know, you bring up how America's feeling about this game. Like, let me throw this out there as, I hear people say oh, it's rigged. The NFL only cares about ratings. If the Lions were in this game over the Niners, would more people watch the game?
Okay, let me just say this. I think if you put in the same time slot the Super Bowl and then a Ravens Lions consolation game, the Lions Ravens game, even if it's for third place and everyone knew it, would crush the Super Bowl in ratings because no one wants to watch those two teams. No one wants to see either of them succeed. And obviously, when I say no one, I'm saying like your average NFL fan. Now, do I think it's rigged? No, because as a business, that wouldn't make sense. This is literally two teams that no one wants to see in the Super Bowl. Why would they be in it? If it was, however, how NFL, like the company, like the league, and also like if the media, the NFL media, like ESPN and all those guys, could control how the season would go, it would go almost exactly like this. So that's where it's fishy to a lot of people. But as a business, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not going to make them a lot of money. I don't think the Super Bowl is going to go down that much in viewership. I think all the protests is kind of fake words, and then also you have all the Taylor Swift fans coming in. But it's not rigged, but it's definitely fishy. I'll admit that.
Okay.
I think
Oh, no, you go.
no. I was gonna real quick. I think the viewership aspect, with the way that Taylor's all in this now, with the way the media has been kind of surrounding it, I think it'll still get a good amount of views. Well, I mean, it's the Super Bowl. It's the most viewed sporting event in America. It's or one of them, I should say. It's really just people pay millions of dollars just to be an ad for this game. I think it'll be just fine. Personally, I mean, I say I don't want to watch it. I'll be watching it. I'll be at a Super Bowl party. It's always a big thing. Like everyone's gonna be watching this game, and that's where the NFL doesn't lose. No matter who's in this game, it's the big game. Everyone's gonna be watching it. Even if it was the Lions Ravens, it would get more. It would definitely get more. But I think that Chiefs are a big brand. 49ers are a huge brand in the NFL. They're one of the more bigger ones. There's 49er fans all over the country. One of the games I was watching earlier this year was a 49ers Commanders game, and it was in DC, and there were more Niners fans there than Commanders fans. Of course, I can't name a Commanders fan in my life, but it's that's not the point. It's just the way that their fan base is so wide, and and Chiefs fans are also a really big fan base. I think it'll be just fine.
Yeah. I think as long as the Chiefs are there, the viewership will be great. And the only reason I asked is because I think if the NFL could have cherry-picked who won both games, it would have been Chiefs-Lions purely for money. And that's the only reason I even mentioned that, but I don't think I think the Chiefs are really just the key component to viewership as far as the NFL goes and what they want. And
yeah, I think to me the biggest like indicator that could like potentially lower viewership, and I say potentially because I mean there could be a dip, but it's not going to be like, oh my god, no one watched the Super Bowl this year, is because like Connor said, everyone does watch it. It's the biggest money making like sports finale in the world. Like it's the most lucrative championship. And, even after the games on Sunday, I was like, am I even going to watch the Super Bowl this year? Because my least favorite team is the Saints. If you do the Saints in the NFC and they're playing the Chiefs, that would probably be it for me. I'd probably be out, honestly. But the fact that it's such an important part of not only if you're a sports fan, but American culture as well, it's hard to see that people don't watch the Super Bowl. But I could definitely see where a lot of people won't be happy with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, obviously there's a lot of people enjoying, the coasts of Cancun right now. So, let's talk about some of these teams that, knocked out of it, fired head coaches. What do we think about some of these head coaching hires across the league? Like, which ones do you guys like?
The ones I like the most, I think the Ravens keeping Pierce was an excellent move. The way he was able to change the culture there in such a short way, and not even like change it in a big way, just he was able to win over the players, and that's always the thing you want to do in the NFL, even if it's like not with the way that you particularly see it. Like they were really enjoying themselves under Pierce, and I think that they were able to make their season fun in the end, which is why I think the Raiders were able to give him a shot. I also really like the new Seahawks hire. I think he'll be great. I thought if you steal a DC from the Ravens, it's usually a good thing. They're really consistent. They're really just generally one of the better defenses in the league. I think that in Seattle he'll do great. I mean, me personally, I've been wanting Pete Carroll gone for the last year or two. I love Pete. I love that man, but you could tell. You could just tell he was falling out of the loop a little bit. So I'm ready for the change. I'm ready for the new culture. I'm ready for new ball in Seattle. It's about time.
Okay, Jake, what are some of the hires that you like?
Yeah. First of all, I thought a lot of them were a little head scratching. A lot of teams usually will change direction, right? So if you have like a defensive head coach and then it wasn't going well, you fire him. Usually you get an offensive guy. I know Seattle wasn't quite like that. I do think the McDonald hire is interesting. I don't know if I'm as big of a fan of it, but I think Seattle usually has their stuff together enough where they make good decisions. Dan Quinn to Washington was another head scratcher, right? That's just another defensive guy. I don't really know what that adds particularly, but Washington's in a rebuild. But the one I really like, besides Pierce, because I was hammering on the table since he started winning games with them, I was like, they got to keep this guy. If they hire another Josh McDaniels again, they're stupid. But, it is the Raiders. But, no, the biggest one I liked was probably, and this is stupid, but Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers because he's won games, right? Obviously a little bit more in like college in a short time there, but in the NFL, he was also a good coach. But for me, it's just like as an organization, you look at the Chargers and you're like, this team doesn't win. They have so much talent all the time and they never win. If you bring in Jim Harbaugh, you have Justin Herbert, you can make things happen on the roster where you can keep some of this talent in the offseason and they still can't win, you might just have to restart the franchise at that point. Like, it might just be cursed.
You might need to relocate at that point.
Seriously, back to San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know a town that's waiting for a team.
I think that happened a while back.
My least favorite coordinator hire, I already had that right off the bat. Arthur Smith, coordinator.
Okay.
Arthur Smith, what is now the OC
Arthur
for the
Smith.
for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That fan base went from Matt Canada to Arthur Smith.
They're begging for Canada by week 4.
Pickens will be gone faster than you can even. It's ridiculous. I feel so bad for that wide receiver because he's so talented. He's such a good receiver. He's dealing with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph the whole time, and awful offensive coordinators, and he's stuck with Arthur Smith.
Yeah, he's
I
gonna
don't
be on some diva stuff this next year. Just watch, man.
I honestly good. I hope he is. I hope he can get out of there as soon as he can because he's rotting in Pittsburgh, dude.
Well,
Get
they
it.
wouldn't-
Get him on the Chiefs. Get him on the Chiefs. I would hate it, but get him on the Chiefs.
I'm starting to
That's
think
a,
you're a Chiefs spy, Connor.
well, I can't say get him on the Seahawks. We already have DK and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So like, I'm going for teams with no receivers, and the Chiefs basically have no receivers. Besides, if you count Miles Valdez-Scantling as an elite wide receiver or something.
Hey, he closed out the game. Put some respect on MVS, dude.
Oh no, I love MVS. I loved him ever since he was a Packer. He's a deep ball threat, but he's not as good as Pickens, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure Arthur Smith will make good use of Godwin Igwebuike. I'm sure he will. But obviously we've talked about that. Brought up Harbaugh a little bit. That's definitely the most reputable hire of the cycle. Jake, you brought up the head-scratching Dan Quinn hire, who has done well with the Cowboys' defense in his defense. He was in Atlanta before, and I don't hate the hire a ton, and I understand why it happened. Their number one guy, according to all media outlets, was Ben Johnson, and up until 4 days ago, they believed they were going to hire him. They were on a plane. I don't know if you guys knew this. They were on a plane, and they get a text from him that he's not going to coach. Like, he's staying in Detroit, which is
What do you think
nuts.
he texted him?
Yeah, he literally texted them. He's like, yeah, no, I'm going to the facility right now. I'm staying, which is crazy. But I think they just kind of had to scramble and go with like a really safe hire, and that's kind of why they ended up with Dan Quinn at that point. I don't know.
I mean, he has the head coaching experience, so you might as well just give him a shot.
Yeah, I mean, he's taken a team to a Super Bowl. He's
been there before. He's been there, done it, and Washington needs anything that they can because that franchise is just on a downhill spiral.
Yeah,
especially with the old owner and all that stuff. So it's just not good. It's things are not looking good if you're a Commander fan. I'm sorry.
So one other thing I wanted to bring up: what do you guys make of Belichick, Carroll, and Vrabel all not getting head coaching jobs? Have we seen the last of them, or will they be back?
Vrabel, no.
Vrabel won't be back? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said Vrabel, we're not seeing the last of him.
Okay. Oh, I got you.
I think Pete Carroll's gonna have Pete Carroll's gonna be like in. I mean, he's in the Seahawks organization, right?
Yeah,
he's still there.
He'll be in the office or something. He's not going to be out of it, but
No, he's not. That man is way too fired up to be done with football completely. Belichick might fall off the face of the earth. I have no idea what he's gonna do. Vrabel not being hired as a head coach really shocked me because that was honestly the guy who I wanted the Seahawks to hire. Right? He's always had these teams that don't have enough talent to go far, but he gets blamed for it. And he's a good coach. I think he's a good coach personally. I think that if he took over a team like a good team, he'd be really good. But I don't know. And he hasn't landed anywhere, right? Does he have a job somewhere? No. He could be a really good DC, I feel like.
Yeah, I know a couple people I was talking to who, were a little bit greedy, were saying they should add, Vrabel as a defensive coordinator, and I don't think he will. I mean, the Titans obviously weren't good this year, but the main reason he was fired is because they wanted to take it into a different direction, because it was very Derrick Henry-centric. Like, the Titans looked the same for the past, 4 years. Pete Carroll was kind of like semi-fired, semi-retired, so I think we're done seeing him. But Belichick... that one's crazy to me, man, because you think of when we were growing up, that was a dynasty. That team, that Patriots dynasty, would toss this Chiefs dynasty around like they owed him money. Because honestly, it was a machine. And like the fact that he fell off so hard where we don't even know if we're going to see him again is crazy.
It was the most complete football team.
Yeah, we're talking 20 straight years of nonstop success, more or less,
Yeah.
minus, maybe the torn ACL Brady season where Matt Castle was starting.
It was the Death Star of the NFL. It was the team that nobody wanted to see. It was the most complete team. It was the most complete football team I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it might
and
well be.
Mahomes is Iguodala.
No. Like it. I don't know. I've never seen a team that complete before. And Bill Belichick. People say Bill Belichick's carried by Brady. No, he wasn't. No, he was not. You can't be a bad head coach and have that team. You just can't. There's no way. If you're a bad head coach, you will fail in some capacity. Bill Belichick is a guy who knows how to run a good, well-tight ships. So
Yeah, the main issue is when he was taking on the GM responsibilities, right? I mean, like that Patriots talent started leaving.
The drafting started to get really inconsistent, and honestly, not even inconsistent, consistently bad, I should say.
That's true. It was consistent.
It was consistent, just not good. Yeah, I mean, like the last good draft pick he's made in the last 3 years was probably like Kyle Duggar. I mean, it just hasn't been a lot of elite talent. I mean, he took Cole Strange in the first round, something like that. I mean, it's just, not getting value from picks. And then, when you just compound that year after year after year, you wind up with a lack of talent on your roster. And, some of those older vets that the Patriots defense had every year were retiring too. Obviously lost Brady. And it just kind of was a house of cards at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if they're going to improve as a team. They brought in Mayo, right? And like he was already on the staff. They're just trying a different Belichick, essentially.
It's just a younger installation of the Patriot way again, just letting that live on pretty much. I think that's their plan for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But where else did we want to head to? So it came out today out of New York. There was some leaks. Apparently Robert Saleh has been having some problems with some of his staff members leaking info to the news, and he had a meeting with them to discuss like how often this was happening. And I think this explains some of the stuff we heard about Zach Wilson in the middle of the season. So he basically called in a meeting and said to everybody like, yo, somebody is leaking this. Just tell me who it is, and you won't get in trouble. We gotta make this stop. And nobody stood up. Saleh then went on to threaten to take their phones. So clearly there's, some disagreement and some butting of heads happening within the Jets locker room or front office, which is never a good look, especially coming off the disappointing season they just had. What do you guys make of that whole situation?
Well, when you play in New York, they play in Jersey, but when you have a New York-based team, when you have New York media surrounding you nonstop, constantly, it's so tough. It's so tough to keep anything in. Saleh should expect this. Saleh should be able to realize that stuff is gonna get leaked. It happens. You're an NFL head coach of the New York Jets. A really, really struggling franchise that the media is constantly pressuring on because you're good content. You're good. You're things that with Zach Wilson with the whole Cougar thing. He already has enough media surrounding him. He already has enough media on him, so his name is hot commodity. Anything around any information that these reporters get, they're gonna post because they want to improve their profile. So Saleh should really expect this stuff to be happening and honestly brush it under the rug at that point. It's already been this long. It's already passed. Nothing can change. So why are you punishing your staff members for something that happened so long ago? And I just don't understand why he's being so hostile about it. I understand it's his job. I understand that his job could be on the line in the next couple of years if he doesn't pull it together. But going after staff members is not the way to do it if you're trying to build a culture in New York. That's just the way I see it.
I think the way I look at it is I need more information before I can actually form a strong opinion on it. And I say that just because, I don't know what level the staff member that is or members that's causing these leaks are at. Like, if he's just going around saying like all these statements are coming out to like interns and everybody, but if he's like having private meetings with high level coaches, I'm talking like offensive, defensive coordinator, wide receiver coach, etc., stuff like that, and that stuff is getting out. I think he's got a right to be mad. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, no coach at that level should be leaking anything bad about the team they're playing for and make their jobs harder. I think
Well, let
that's
me hit you with some info.
okay.
So Zach Rosenblatt and Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported that a Jets coach, told The Atlantic most of the stuff that got leaked out. The biggest quote is he says, "It's such an effing mess. Something has to change." There were more things from the article too, like the Jets coach described the team as one riddled with excuses, a paranoid head coach, and an ill-equipped offensive coordinator and organizational tunnel vision on the quarterback that rubbed some teammates the wrong way. Obviously, when Rodgers got there, they all got a little bit starstruck. And the coach said that Rodgers isn't the assistant GM. Joe Douglas is the assistant GM, and that Nathaniel Hackett showed a lack of urgency in fixing the problems and would rarely have the team watch practice during camp. And then Saleh, like you said, threatened to take phones away. But the is they were saying with Zach Wilson that Zach Wilson was told when Rodgers got hurt, Rodgers promised him straight line communication, and he didn't hear from Rodgers once. And that actually his relationship with him got worse as the year went on. And the Jets had that whole debacle about when they needed Zach Wilson to play again, he was like, "No, I'm not going to. You guys are just throwing me out there and making me look bad." And apparently, Saleh went to Rodgers, and they were trying to mend it over, the two of them, to make Zach play. So it really seems like a lot of the locker room is divided with like pro Rodgers, and then other people are saying, "Yeah, man, this 38-year-old quarterback who got injured last year is not going to take us to the Super Bowl. We have to take us to the Super Bowl." But it seems like both of you touched on, there's a lot of chaos in that building,
And I
even
think
for the Jets standards.
I think the situation's really surprising too. I think when Saleh was hired, he was seen as a really strong locker room guy. Coming out of San Francisco, he built that Niners defense into the monster they are today. I know they've, kept it up since then, but the truth be told, when they made that incredible jump, from picking second to being in the Super Bowl, that was all him essentially, and that's why he has a job today. So I think it's really shocking, at least for me personally. I don't know if you guys can say the same, but he seemed like almost like a Dan Campbell culture instilling type of guy when he was hired.
I think what I expected Saleh to do is what D'Amico Ryans did with the Texans this year.
Okay.
It's what I expected from especially a guy like with that good of a mind on football that Saleh has. I expected him to do what D'Amico Ryans did this year with the Texans, be like a dark horse playoff team, be a team that could shock some people, and it's just every year for Saleh has just been like, when is it going to happen?
Yeah.
When is he going to take the next step? And we just have no idea. He doesn't have the talent for it, which I can get. He's had it in the palm of his hand, but he doesn't know how to use it at times. And also, we have also unfortunate injuries like Rodgers, like the first drive of the year. Like it's if Rodgers was healthy, that team goes a lot further than it did this year. Obviously, I don't know if it's a playoff lock or anything, but like I think Saleh's had his unfortunate share of events. So I think that people need to give him a little bit more time. But if this culture thing continues to arise, like if this culture thing starts to get worse, I might question if he's ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you hear about these culture guys, right? Like Dan Campbell, Mike Tomlin. They have a set of rules, but they also let guys be themselves and operate within the rules, right? So you get more of an authentic football team. Robert Saleh to me kind of feels like a tight ship, and sometimes the ship is too tight, and I feel like that really happened this year because he felt certainly a lot of pressure with having Rodgers on, all the hype, all the offseason stuff, and then to not produce anything is disappointing. And like the article said, they are a team full of excuses. Before it was Rodgers, it was like, well, we have an elite defense. We just need to get the quarterback right. And then they got the quarterback, and then he got hurt. And then it was like, we're going to be an elite team again. We just need to get the quarterback. So what actually happens if we have Rodgers and a good defense on the Jets and they still miss the playoffs? I don't know. I think we could see Salah done at the end of this year. I mean, they could very likely finish 9-8 and be done. Miami's still chugging along, and the Bills. I mean, the Bills will have a long off season. They got some decisions to make, but I still think they'll be competitive. I mean,
As long as they have Josh Allen under center, they'll be competitive.
they'll be competitive, and they'll also be turning over the ball a lot. But yeah, they'll be competitive.
I mean, you saw their OC hire, Joe Brady. I mean, I think
That's
that was
true. I did like it. I did like it.
I think that was an excellent one. I think they were smart to keep him on the staff. McDermott as a head coach, I like him, but he's questionable sometimes.
Yeah, we got to cut off a lot of that cap. It starts on the defense, so we're going to see if it's still as good or not. But
I think they're going to lose some old talent, and I think that they're going to have to definitely go for the draft hard and free agency if they can, like get some like slept on guys that are like going to be contributors. But the Bills might have a down year next year if they don't attack it correctly.
So, Jake, you brought up Dan Campbell. So, what better time to get into that whole discussion? Real hot topic this past week. He came under a lot of fire for his management of the NFC Championship game, a game Detroit led 24-7 at halftime and ultimately lost 34-31 in the final seconds. What do you guys think of his decision making, and is it his fault? Is it just a combination of a lot of things going wrong? Lack of experience all around the board. What is it?
yeah, first of all, I would just like to say, I was screaming at my TV. I was like, just kick the field goal. Just kick it's 20 yards, Dan. Just have the money badger kick the damn field goal. But no, I get why he's under fire, but I also think there was a group. I'm not going to say they're correct, but they were saying like he should be fired, and I was like, for taking the Lions almost to a Super Bowl? Are you kidding me? That's stupid. But it was dumb not to do that, especially because the Niners were gaining momentum. Dan Campbell's the kind of guy who, if he's playing blackjack and has a 17, he's gonna hit. Like, he's just aggressive. You know what you're getting. They do convert a lot, though. I think if they do convert, we still call it stupid, but we call it like courageous because it's brave, but it's still dumb. But yeah, I think that's something he's got to work on, right? Because he's aggressive. The Lions will throw tricks at you. They'll throw a fake punt when they don't need. They're up by 10 in the second quarter, and they don't need to, and they will. And it keeps you on your feet. But at some point, the Lions, I think, almost surprise themselves with how aggressive they are. And especially when the Lions, were playing the Niners, and their margin of error was so much smaller, you got to just take the points.
Yeah. Okay. Connor, you on the same boat?
I do understand that. I think that in that position, you should take the points. But knowing Dan Campbell, I mean, ever since his pregame, ever since his first head coach presser, we're gonna bite you. We're gonna bite your kneecaps off. We're gonna kick you in the teeth. Like this, if he didn't change, if he used his approach to make it all the way to the NFC Championship, why change it up there? Why go safe there when you've already not been safe the entire time leading up to that? You might as well just go for the whole thing. You might as well just go for the fourth downs. You might as well just go for that. I understand that he should have kicked it. He should have kicked it.
27 yards.
He should have kicked it. Yes, but as a head coach, you need to stick to who you are. As a head coach, you need to stick to what you believe in, and what he believes in is going for it in those situations. And I respect it. He doesn't change up who he is, and I think that's why Detroit's going to be here for a while. Dan Campbell's not going to switch up for almost anything, and I think that what he's building in Detroit, if he's able to keep Ben Johnson at OC, the staff loves him, the players love him, the fans love him, everybody loves Dan Campbell, besides the analytics experts who think that they're so high and mighty, when in reality, analytics is just the measurement. No one's gonna. Not every head coach is based on analytics. not every head coach they want to go for what they believe in, and Dan Campbell was one of those people, and I respect it heavily.
I will say that the analytics, in both instances, said to go. I will put that out there. Just
They
like
did.
they both said to go.
Because
Michael Badgley is a really low percentage kicker, so that definitely influences the analytics there. But
Okay.
I mean, you guys are both right in a sense. I can't say you would have missed that field goal. I can't even come close to saying that. But at the same time, we have these analytics guys out here that do horribly with game management. I mean, look at Brandon Staley and what he did with the Chargers. Blown lead after blown lead, a 28-0 blown lead as a full analytics by the book guy. We've seen it happen. So, and that's at the highest level. That was in the playoffs against the Jaguars. So, a point being, it's tough. I think at that point, it's a game time decision type of thing, but I think Dan was always the guy who was going to just stick to his guns and stick to the culture he instilled. That aggressive play style is what finally got Detroit to the NFC Championship. So it's like, why abandon it now? I think that was probably the mentality that went into it. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Some may hate it. Some will still hate it and remember that day for years to come. I know Lions fans will. But, anybody saying that he should be fired, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't say that about any coach in the league that took a team that was the laughingstock of the league for decades to NFC Championship in his third year. So that's what I think about it. Do I think they'll be back? I don't know. Honestly. I don't know.
It all depends on what the Jared Goff situation leads to. I think the Lions need to. It all just depends on what Jared Goff does, what the Lions do at the quarterback situation. I think they're fine literally everywhere else. I think every other position is filled. I think their O line is elite. I think their D line, besides Hutchinson, could use a little bit of work, but overall it's good. Their secondary is pretty good. I think Gardner Johnson is questionable, but this Lions script was special this year. They were feisty. They didn't really care what other people thought. And I think that as long as Dan Campbell and his staff stay, I think they'll be fine. They'll find their guys.
They got to boost that secondary. So far, all the Lions' moves, I mean, they worked out, but a lot of them have been head-scratching, right? You trade Hawkinson to get Laporta. That's tight end for tight end. You get rid of, Williams, and you get rid of Swift to get Gibbs and Montgomery. It's also worked for them, but that's running back for running back.
Yeah, it's crazy. Those are situations they got a lot of hate for that ended up somehow working perfectly, but those were heavily criticized because it's like, you're trading established guys for risks in the draft right now.
But I understand why they were criticized, but I honestly completely saw this working out. I think Gibbs was a questionable draft pick at first. But once you saw his athleticism on the field, once you saw how game-changing he is in, the pass game, and, he's only going to get better. Gibbs is only going to get better between the tackles. He's only going to get better strength-wise. He's legit. And Montgomery is the perfect 1-2 punch. I think it was a perfect move for them getting rid of Williams. Also, because Williams and Swift weren't, the best backs. They weren't game-changing backs or anything, so I understand why they did it. But it was criticized heavily, and including me with the head scratcher a little bit. But
Jake, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that? I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying to say, they were definitely criticized, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you gotta stop exchanging. You gotta start making actual moves, right? Like Cam Sutton can't be your number one DB. But at the same time, yeah, it's worked out. They're getting rid of players and replacing them with who's gonna fit more. Like Gibbs is a receiving back. They didn't have that before, so that's kind of worked. But they got to get a kicker, man. If you can't trust your kicker to make a sub 30-yard field goal in the NFC Championship game, you don't have a kicker. It's that simple. Especially he's kicking in a dome for half of these games, and he goes to Minnesota too and kicks in a dome. So you better have one of the top kicking percentages if you're in a dome half of the year.
I will say just so same page here. they didn't have a sub 30-yard field goal. They were on the 27-yard line, so it was a 42-yarder.
No.
But a lot of
No, I
people,
still
a
like
lot,
it.
but
Still like it.
I did see that agenda spread because internet warriors will type out 27-yard field goal because they're sitting at the 27-yard line. Like, no, that's not how
Yeah,
that works. But
and that's the number I was seeing. But yeah, I still would kick the field goal.
I saw that at first too, and when I went back and looked because I was like, did he really not kick it a 27-yard field goal?
Man was
I
man
mean,
was in disbelief.
I mean, you really got to give credit though to the Niners though because they've really had that roster on lock. You know, when we're talking about how your roster can improve, I just kind of think like, okay, you kind of emulate what the Niners do, right? And honestly, it's gonna be really interesting because this is a copycat league, but whoever wins the Super Bowl, I think will kind of determine the direction of where a lot of these teams go, right? Because Mahomes had success so far, of course with a little extracurricular help, but him and the Chiefs have had help, and that led a lot of people to do like, okay, we got to get our quarterback now. We got to lock him in as long as possible. And no one else has seen the same level of success, right? We've even seen blunders like Russell Wilson in Denver or so far Aaron Rodgers in New York. Obviously, that's not even the guys who got drafted. Daniel Jones in New York could even be an example. Like, he's horrible. But if the Niners win, I kind of hope they do for that sake because I think it would be a lot more fun seeing teams lock up the best players in other positions instead of giving half of their salary cap to a quarterback who's most likely not going to win them any playoff games.
Yeah, and I think a part of the problem that has arose was just the Deshaun Watson contract that messed up a lot of teams, like the extensions they were having to give quarterbacks. It got so many people paid, especially now with Deshaun's poor performance. It's like, why am I not getting paid more than that guy? So it really messed a lot of teams up. And I think you're right, if the Niners win, we're definitely going to see less of a just bankrolling quarterbacks, like in drafting quarterbacks, every other year until we get our guy type of thing. And it would have been the same thing if the Lions had made it to, if Jared Goff was there, same deal. Like you need a middle of the pack quarterback or middle top half to win a Super Bowl, and then that conversation will start about why are we paying quarterbacks all of this money to the point where we are sacrificing other positions across the board. But did anybody have any closing remarks before we wrapped up here today? Any shout outs, any shameless plugs?
I would just like to please ask Mike Evans to re-sign with the Buccaneers. I know we don't have an offensive coordinator right now, but I know if Baker comes back, retire in the Bay, Mike. You're fantastic. We love you either way.
Okay.
Seahawks, do not draft a running back in the second round, please.
Charbonnet wasn't hitting it.
No, Charbonnet was plenty. We don't need more.
Okay. Good stuff, boys. Reese's, please sponsor us. I'll throw that out there. And yeah, there it is. I don't know. We can't be giving them that free advertising space. They gotta hit us up in our emails. So Reese's, sponsor us. But other than that, everybody enjoy the Super Bowl. We will be back shortly after analyzing that. We will get into some mock draft stuff. So for all you fans whose teams aren't in it anymore or people that absolutely hate this Super Bowl, we will have all the content for you. Also, we got some EA Sports college football coming up soon. We got some news on that, so stay tuned for that. I'm sure you guys will love that. But other than that, peace out, everybody.